If you've ever been challenged by fear or worry and made a big mistake or made a bunch of little mistakes that ended up becoming a big problem, chances are you've experienced being ungrounded and you didn't even know it. Being ungrounded is so natural to the human experience that we can live our entire lives in an ungrounded physical, mental, and spiritual state. Oh, and it's important to note that during this video, when I speak about emotions, I'm also talking about energy, because our emotions are the felt sensation of the state that our energy is in. And I know that grounding can come off as a superficial topic, but make no mistake, not being grounded can ruin your life. Look, if you don't know how to ground yourself when your life, health, jobs, or relationships depend on it, that can lead to circumstances that you can't bounce back from with just an apology. What's up, everybody? My name is Nine Johnson, and this is Self Healer's Guide, a place to find practical and actionable wisdom around self-healing and practical spirituality. In this video, we're going to go over what being grounded and ungrounded is from a practical and spiritual perspective. You're going to learn why having an awareness of grounding is literally the most simple, yet dramatic life or death circumstance that a human being may face in our fast-paced age of information, digital media, and distraction. Now, in this week's video, we're going to go deep into a phenomenon that's known very well in psychology called grounding. But we're also going to explore both the practical and spiritual perspectives of grounding. In part one, we're going to go over what grounding is from a psychological perspective and a spiritual energetic perspective. In part two, we're going to go over why we become ungrounded and why we become grounded, and why both of them can sometimes be seen as life or death circumstances. I personally think that this video is important because most of us aren't aware that being grounded in the present moment is something that we're accountable for being able to do on our own. Culturally, we refer to it as being present, being focused, being dialed in, being in the zone, or being in a peak state of performance. But we only consider these concepts when we're trying to achieve something. Rarely do we ever consider being grounded in a mindful lifestyle when our mind, body, and present moment experience are always concentrated in the present moment. Often we're ungrounded and we're over-concerned with what we want and don't want in the future, or resisting what happened in the past. Existing in our mind while kind of paying attention to the reality of the lives that we're living in the present moment. We literally live our lives on the edge, because we'll learn later in this video that daydreaming and driving is 4 times more dangerous than texting and driving. And most of us spend 35% or more daydreaming about the future or worrying about the future. They're essentially the same thing, which is why people are so easy to take advantage of. Also, why we make life-altering mistakes at our jobs and in our relationships, because culturally, our mind is preoccupied with trying to control our fears and desires. Thinking about all the things that we don't want to let happen, all the good things we want to make happen, and all the things that we regret not being able to make happen. So we're not grounded and tuned in to what's currently happening in the present moment. If we could live a more grounded and mindful lifestyle, we'd experience more stability in our life, and we'd be able to avoid most of the circumstances that we have the ability to control. Grounding is the key. We're just culturally not aware that it's a very important thing. Okay, so what is grounding? Now, before we get into the practical spiritual perspective on grounding, I want to identify the mainstream psychological perspective, and then we'll go deeper into earthing, and then the practical perspective. All right, here we go. Okay, so first things first, this video is focused on the general concept of grounding, not one specific practice, because there are a lot of them. The mental health community defines grounding as a self-soothing method, and self-soothing refers to any behavior that an individual uses to regulate their emotions by themselves. So in this case, grounding is used when you're having a bad day, dealing with a lot of stress, overwhelming feelings, or intense anxiety. Grounding is a technique used to help keep the mind reoriented in the present moment by either calming the emotions or distracting the mind from the emotions. Being ungrounded isn't just something that affects you mentally and emotionally. It affects all of you. It affects our mind, body, emotions, and spirit, all of which are manifestations of our energy. And because they're all interconnected and have an influence on each other, this is why it's been so challenging for humans to instinctively remain grounded in the moment like all other mammals. It's crazy. Like, if our subtle energy gets blocked, it can cause physical pain or mental strain. If our mind creates a limiting belief, it could cause emotional angst and motivational blocks. If our body gets hurt, it can cause physical pain that causes emotional pain and mental fatigue, and we're the only mammals who can forget and confuse our basic instincts and imagine a false reality. In the event that any one area has a problem, we can intentionally ground and stabilize our system long enough to think our way out of the circumstances and seek solutions for healing. Earthing is a grounding practice that shares a similar intention with all other grounding practices, which is to neutralize any built up static energy in our body to assist the mind, body, and spirit to function harmoniously in the present moment. Earthing is directly touching our bare skin to the earth to use the earth's negative charge to ground and neutralize our body's like static electric charge back to zero. Earthing involves walking barefoot in the soil, grass, rocks, lakes, oceans. Although earthing has a positive impact on the mind, it differs from practices used in mental health treatment, as well as differing from practices used in energy healing and spiritual health treatments. At the end of the day, being grounded is one of the most necessary states of mind, body, and spirit that we can achieve mastery of. Our life and the quality of our lives depends on it, which is why I thought it was important to make this video. What is being grounded from a practical spirituality perspective? Basically, being grounded is your mind, body, and spirit being harmoniously concentrated in the present moment in total full body awareness. So concentrated that your awareness of your life is balanced between the physical, mental, and emotional, and intuitively in the spiritual. The best example of somebody being grounded is a race car driver, because they fully appreciate the consequences of one bad decision. They appreciate the reality that driving at speeds of over 150 miles per hour makes being grounded in their six senses the only way that they can remain in harmony with their car, all the other drivers, and navigate their way through the race without crashing into the other competition or the track. So every choice they make is a choice that considers all the variables of their mental, physical, and emotional sense experience. The mature race car driver never takes for granted that driving in general is a dangerous activity, no matter how much they've mastered the skill. That is being grounded in the circumstances of their reality. One very major cause of all suffering in life is not being grounded in the reality of your circumstances and the consequences of your choices. All it takes is 1 second to make a choice that could lose your job, that could end your relationship, and that could end your life or take somebody else's life. And so grounding seems like something superficial, but it's actually huge. So in part 2, we're going to go over what causes a natural grounded state of being and why we become ungrounded in the first place. And then we'll explore examples of what being grounded and ungrounded look like in practical circumstances. All right, here we go. The basic cause of being grounded is security and stability. When we're totally secure, we're also mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually stable and in unrestricted harmony with all levels of our being. Our mind and body is open to engaging the world fully and unconditionally, so it takes no effort to maintain a totally grounded state of being. We can easily move through the world fully engaged and totally grounded in the moment. To take the race car driver example even further, a person grounded in a race is calm, centered in their body, their limbs are relaxed and stable, their mind, body, and spirit are all harmonious and intuitively coordinated. They're in constant mental, emotional, and sensual communication with their body and their body's experience with their vehicle. With every move, their body is effortlessly scanning every next move like a game of chess, always checking in with how they feel mentally and emotionally about their progress. They know what stable vibration feels like in their vehicle. They know what stable braking feels like, and they know what their surrounding environment sounds like. The whole mind, body, spirit complex works in harmony to accomplish the goal of finishing the race. This is an example of a grounded state of being in harmonious and coordinated flow of feedback and response, and is transferable to any life circumstance. Walking down the street, taking a test, playing a sport, public speaking, dancing, being interviewed, negotiations, and parenting. With any given circumstance, perfect performance is impossible without first being grounded in the moment with our whole mind, body, and spirit, as well as being grounded in the reality of our goals and intentions. Often, it's our intuitive physical senses that keep us safe. The sound, vibration, temperature, smell, and movement all effortlessly make a driver aware of changes in the conditions of their vehicle or its relationships to the road. The slightest change in smell or vibration can make them aware of danger. A slight discomfort in their body or their tension in their limbs can make them aware of a need for water far before dehydration or cramping becomes a threat to their concentration. The slightest change in the light of their peripheral vision keeps them aware of possible threats coming from the side. Being grounded in the reality of our circumstances makes us more likely to be tuned into the people, places, and things that we're engaged with, leading to us performing our intentions at our highest potential. And the same can be said for a job interview. The hiring manager's tone of voice, body language, enthusiasm, eye contact, questions, and willingness to divulge new information all can let you know how an interview is going in the present moment. But if you're insecure and spinning in your mind full of worry, you'll likely be ungrounded and miss your opportunity to respond to visual cues and make the best impression possible. The opposite conditions manifest the opposite effect. Once the mind-body-spirit complex has a reason to lack security and stability, whether that be a physical illness or injury, or mental challenges like a self-limiting belief or suppressed, blocked emotional energy, all three can cause disharmony in the mind, body, and spirit, leading us to chronically overthink, perceive the world in ways that contradict reality, trigger distorted emotional experiences, and manifest physical pain caused by anxiety. All of these very real circumstances can lead to us living a life that isn't grounded in the present moment, let alone reality, leading to having great difficulties in school, at work, getting work, maintaining jobs, maintaining relationships, being present for our children, and being present and available to tend to our own health, self-care, and well-being. That's a hard life, bruh. This example is also an influence of imposter syndrome and social anxiety of all kinds. The mind reacts to negative beliefs about our ability and our social value, so we unconsciously resist reality and react defensively when there's no actual danger. A person being afraid and unconfident in their ability to drive safely would trigger their fight, flight, freeze response, projecting all of their energy into their mind. Their mind would spin into worry and imagining worst-case scenarios, making their energy unstable and unpredictable, cutting the mind-body connection and their ability to have stable control of their body. Their connection to reality in the present moment would be cut off from receiving sense information from what their environment is telling them, making it more likely that they would make a mistake and cause an accident or just crash. Also, in heightened states of fear, a person can be obsessively grounded in their body and blocked out of their mind, frozen in heightened states of terror. But what makes this topic most important is simply some people can't remain grounded enough to avoid the basic dangers in life, like not accidentally falling asleep with a lit cigarette in their hand, not daydreaming while driving, not stepping off a curb without watching where they step and rolling their ankle, or making the simple mistake that causes a major problem at work, or crossing the street without paying attention to traffic. And worst of all errors, taking your mind off your baby or 2-year-old for more than 30 seconds. We take for granted that our subconscious mind facilitates our balance, our coordination, and awareness of time and the basic dangers in life. But when we're not grounded in the moment, we become very accident prone and clumsy, and the simplest lapse in attention can lead to accidents that can't be repaired with an apology. Broken bones, being fired over careless mistakes, there's no coming back from that. I'm telling you. Oh yeah, if you like what you've heard so far, please consider hitting that like button, hit the subscribe, connect the bell, so the next time I post a video you can be notified so we can continue this exploration of practical spirituality and continue understanding how we can use spiritual principles and concepts to practically improve our life and understand how they practically affect our life. To make spirituality more actionable and less figurative and philosophical. We're going to go back to the car example, but this time focusing on the everyday driver, because we can all relate to it. During their driver's license test and driving at speeds above 90 miles per hour, and loss that comes with either being a first-time driver and failing our test, or crashing at high speeds. However, after we've been driving for a year, the process becomes so routine, it becomes an unconscious activity that's so easy for people, they feel confident driving eating fast food, talking on the phone, and occasionally taking their eye off the road all at the same time. This level of comfort allows for people to lack respect for the dangers of driving and begin driving in ungrounded states of mind out of habit, which is why accidents happen in the first place. Whether someone walks into the road or someone's not paying attention to their driving, 99% of the time, the accident's being caused by someone not being grounded into the reality of their circumstances. A nationwide study was done by Erie Insurance Company investigating the most common causes of fatal car accidents, and they found that daydreaming accounted for 61% of fatal car accidents in the nation, and that's 41% higher than talking on a cell phone at 14%, and 52% higher than texting at 9% nationwide. So this is a clear illustration of how much we benefit from practicing a grounded lifestyle. It'll save your life and make you a more effective person in every area of your life. So one very real reason one might live an ungrounded lifestyle is they lack respect and accountability for the serious consequences of the reality of their circumstances. When activities become routine, we become overconfident and begin forgetting about the serious dangers involved in basic activities like driving. But the same can be said for being in a relationship. We get so comfortable with the routine, we start taking the fact that we have a partner for granted and stop paying attention to them. Or being a parent, having a relationship with your children becomes so routine, we get so comfortable in the environment that we stop paying attention to the basic mental, emotional, and physical needs of our children. And the same can be said for our daily lives. Often when we grow comfortable with our daily life circumstances, we become ungrounded and lose track of the reality that our job is not guaranteed to last forever. So we overspend and fail to save in preparation for unexpected life circumstances. Often we live without any plan at all and live disconnected from the realities of adulthood. I did that. Or we live ungrounded from the reality of our health and only eat junk food and avoid the fact that vegetables are required and mandatory for our body to maintain our health and optimum functionality. Or we have children motivated by the desire to have a family, live a life completely disconnected from the mental, emotional, and biological needs of our children and spouse. One very real cause of our culture of unhappiness is that we just don't live grounded in the reality of our lives. And we lack a connection to our mental health needs, our physical health needs, and our spiritual health needs. So we overwork and then compensate by becoming overfixated with pleasure and undercare for ourselves and lose track of our life goals, passions, and personal development. Another very obvious cause of not being grounded is drugs and alcohol. They get us high and overly focus our senses on pleasure and cut us off from the reality of our circumstances, making us absent-minded, uncoordinated, clumsy, and disoriented. All of the same characteristics a person would have generally living an ungrounded lifestyle. When we lack security in our life, the fear of making a mistake, being humiliated, being abandoned, or hurt physically or emotionally focuses our energy into either overthinking, overfeeling, overreacting, underresponding, and overprotecting ourselves, lacking a healthy awareness of ourselves and our mind, body, and spirit connection, all of which deepens our ungrounded state and creates a cycle of insecurity that leads to energetic and emotional instability and overwhelm to achieve at least a minimal amount of control over their life experience. The consequence of being ungrounded is living a life disconnected from the reality of your choices, a life comprised of many, many mistakes, a whole lot of mistakes, and a whole lot of accidents, giving us even more insecurities to impulsively react to, leading to even more reason to disconnect and become even more ungrounded. The benefits of being aware of the concepts of grounding is that being ungrounded can have serious negative effects on your life based on split-second decisions. And until someone is made aware of the necessity to practice a grounded lifestyle, they can never really know how influential being ungrounded is on the outcomes of your life experience. And the good news is there are many grounding practices that we can do to help us remain grounded in the present moment and not lose ourselves to the influences of fear and anxiety in important moments in our lives. And if we practice a grounded or mindful lifestyle, we can be more capable and prepared to use grounding techniques during moments of extreme mental and emotional overwhelm, or simply during moments of your life where performing at your highest potential is in the highest benefit for you and everyone involved. Alright, that's the end of the episode. Thank you for hanging in there with me. In my next video, I'll teach you everything you need to know to get started in developing your own grounding practice, and I'll share the practices I use to stay grounded in my daily life. I'll also share stories about all the times I lived in a very ungrounded state of mind and the effects that it had on my life. And until then, deuces.